Where was the recognition for women, and what kind of development was supposed to be put in place to ensure that women, particularly those who are most vulnerable, particularly those most in need, particularly those with the least economic stability, where was that justice coming from, and for who? And who is supposed to give the justice? So the fact that, like you quite rightly said, we had a whole 10 years and we had to start all over again on the 1st of January 2025 for another 10 years in the hope that as Africans, and particularly as women, there will be some justice development. There will be some recognition for us. Okay, so we're giving it another go. I applaud the fact that the CPAN in particular and the Emancipation Support Committee are doing this work. I would like to have had seen a conference happening around women that centered only women's voices, to be honest.
Okay.
The fact we are in 2025 and that a conference for women, we still have so many male voices. There's so much male space, or so much space being taken up by men. And there's nothing wrong with the men being there. I mean, we should, every conference on women, unless we're talking about very sort of like intimate things around maybe women's bodies, in every space, generally there should be men present. But men should not be, in my view, the voices. The voices should be the women. The men should be there to listen and to learn and to go away and to take that learning and to share that learning with other men, with their sons and their brothers and their uncles and their fathers. And so that to me kind of puts a little bit of a dampener on things when I hear how many men are actually going to be speaking at this conference. If it's a conference on centering women, I would like to hear women's voices, because we have a whole heap of amazing women. I mean, we're dripping, oozing with powerful women all across our island, across the continent, across the diaspora. So you're telling me you can't find a whole set of women to talk about women on International Women's Event. So there's that. The other question is, when we have these events and they are in these very academic spaces, or they're in these very politically astute spaces, you know, the UN in New York, you know, who's really at the table?
The
And
people that get
when
through the indigo registration process and are vetted and have their ID tagged onto them, that can fly and afford that one thousand
that
dollar plus. Oh, okay. Should I? Oh,
who
you weren't asking me. Forgive me, audience. Oops.
exactly, what African woman from Tanzania or Benin or the Gambia, or the average, the woman living in a,
Costa Rica,
they call them a
Jamaica.
township now,
Yeah,
in
anywhere.
Soweto, can
Yeah.
get on an aeroplane and even get a visa to get to America, to sit down and talk her truth and be centered and have her voice heard. So we have the usual suspects, those women who have the privilege, perhaps like you and I, who carry a passport of a colonizer. We got our little eagle on our passports, even though if you have your passport, I mean, because you know, when you have a Caribbean passport, you don't need a visa to go everywhere, and that's another story now about, you know, what is going on about these imposition of visas now that
Correct.
didn't exist before. They've just been, I mean, Trinidad, we've just had that put on us by England, which is a whole story about the audacity of England to put visa restrictions on us with a Trinidad passport. So if I pull out my Trinidad passport and try and go anywhere, I need a visa. So I have to pull out the other passport with the eagle to be able to move around, or the Babylon Windsor people, those kind of passport to travel. So again, yes, you know, the lip service, the language, it sounds wonderful. You know, we've got all these things happening in these big, you know, institutions centering women, but how is that going to trickle down? I actually don't even like that trickle down. To me, trickle down is a very derogatory way of putting it. How is it going to engage and center the voices of the women who really need the protections that they're talking about, who need the opportunities, who need that justice, who need that recognition and that development, if we want to bring it all together? That's the issue. So in terms of solutions, we've got to change the whole approach this is not the way to bring about systemic change. Systemic change has to happen on the ground. The people on the ground who are actually living with the lived reality of these things, they need to be the ones to direct the conversation or the versation or the I-versation,
I was
conversation. Because the conversation is the con, isn't it?
right,
That's where the con, that's where the deception is. So that's where we hear the words, and we see people standing there taking photographs and making pledges, and then they go away and they go back to their homes and their comfortable jobs with their money and their cars and all the other things, and then the sisters on the cold face continue the liberty.
right,
And so we've got to change our approach. We've got to
right.
think about who's being centered.